Welcome to Raging Bullets, a DC Comics fan podcast, episode 666. Welcome to Raging Bullets. I'm Sean Whalen, drnorge, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Jim, the sensei of the whatnot, the master of speculation, the duke of the sultan of strategery, the bridge defying, and will not be joining us this episode because he is desperately trying to figure out which came first, the chicken or the egg, but he still remains the elder statesman of the podcast, Segulin.
How's it going, eh?
On this episode, we're going to talk about Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths number 5 and Dark Crisis, the Deadly Green number 1. We are sponsored, as always, by DCB Service and InStockTrades.com. Mr. Segulin, what is going on over at DCBService.com?
We have Dark Crisis, Big Bang One Shot, 40% off, only $2.39. We have Tales of Earth 6A, a celebration of Stan Lee One Shot, 40%, only $5.99. And we've got Danger Street, issue number 1, 40% off, only $2.39. Now, this book had me at, it's written by Tom King. And then I read what it was about, and I was like, oh my God, yes, please. Joining the Justice League is the goal for any superhero. But what happens when a quest for membership takes a sinister turn? Join Starman, Metamorpho, and Warlord as they look to prove themselves worthy by summoning and defeating Darkseid in battle. Soon they'll learn that calling upon a new god never ends well, and their world is headed for a crisis as a result. They journey to save the day with what will be treacherous, one filled with princesses, knights, and all kinds of monsters. Each person the hero encounters plays a crucial role in their spawning yet gripping narrative. That's a little bit silly, a whole lot dark, and completely cool. Expect the unexpected with a supporting cast featuring Manhunter, Lady Cop, the Green Team, and the Creeper. Inspired by the heroes and villains of the first issue special, Tom King and Jorge Fornes from Rorschach return as an unforgettable maxi-series that reimagines these characters and their story. A multi-character, multi-layered crime drama starring some of DC's most obscure creations. No one will see it coming, but everyone will want to see where it goes. I'm all in right now. Thank you, DCBS.
Over at InStockTrades.com, they have their deals of the week, and there's some great books. I'm a big fan of the Absolutes, and Absolute Doomsday Clock is out. This is a $125 book, 50% off, only $62.50. Batman, The Long Halloween, the prequel, The Haunted Night, $49.99, regularly 50% off, only $24.99. And Constantine, Distorted Illusions trade paperback, $16.99 regularly, 50% off, only $8.49. Thank you, DCB Service at InStockTrades.com for continuing to support our show. Before we kick into the show, I wanted to shout out some recent podcast appearances I've had on Is It Jaws, which is a movie review podcast. Paul was kind enough to have me join him recently on a review that we did on Willard from 1971. We've also done in previous episodes together some reviews of some of the recent Marvel movies. And we did a review of The Quiet Man. So it's been a great chance for me to get a chance to do some guest episodes on there where I get to talk about some films, which I really enjoy. So I hope you'll check those out. Mr. Segulin, what kind of a podcast are we?
Raging Bullets is a spoiler podcast. We go in-depth into plotlines, story twists, and whatnot of the comics we're discussing on today's show. So if you haven't read the books, you may want to come back later so you can better enjoy the show.
Let's talk some comics.
There they are, all alone except for that old character.
Jim, the images on our Facebook group of Brother Blood, man. Talk about nailing it. I mean, we're getting more and more in an era now where our expectations on how close a costume should be to what's in the comic book is, really high. And boy, this is pretty perfect.
Yeah.
I'm excited for this.
I'm absolutely loving this. This thing looks outstanding.
That's going to be a good season. I've really enjoyed Titans. Titans is a show that grew on me more and more. I remember watching it back in the first season, and I think due to the tone of it, I was having trouble the first season, kind of wrapping my head around Dick Grayson. When I say that, I want to say that I quickly got over that and started really digging it. But I remember at first it was that was a shock to me. More than anything else, it wasn't a lack of enjoyment. As the seasons have gone on, I think we've seen this evolution and continued growth of Titans as a group. and I've really grown to love the show. It's an example of how a show can evolve in multiple seasons. So season 4, I'm like super stoked for.
Yeah, I'm pumped for this. And it's funny because Titans is a great example of Elseworld.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, this is not the Titans from the comic. That's not Dick Grayson. It's not any of the characters from the. But there's enough of that base of who they are that you're like, yeah, I can see that. I'm cool with this. You know, and I like when you have those kind of stories where it feels comfortable enough, but it is different. It's his own personal. And as you said, from season 1 to now, there has been some really neat development in all the characters. They've let all of them grow and develop. So definitely looking forward to Brother Blood.
Did you have this Indiana Jones figure that James posted?
Yes, I did, man. I remember having that figure. I was like, dang, I had that. I'm
getting that. I mean, it's like a must-have. I loved the Kenner line of characters, and that's one where, especially, like, I'm really excited for the new movie. I love that we're getting a, like, authentic from Hasbro, Kenner action figure. And I love it's great. Definitely in on that. Where did they find this? So what I'm looking at right now, and it's on our Facebook group, it looks legit, right?
Yeah.
Due to overwhelming requests, it's Wonder Woman presenting urinals of the Justice League.
Yes.
And it shows the urinals, like, who requested this? Like, overwhelmingly requested this. It's the same person, right? That overwhelmingly requested it? Like,
I'm assuming.
And they're like, listen, we've got to stop this guy. Right?
It looks like this, if I'm going by artwork, I'm going to say this was back maybe 70s.
Yeah.
Artwork. So did this actually appear in a 70s comic? I was laughing my head off at it, just going, there's so many things you can say on this that I don't know if we got the time, but the one that cracks me up probably the most is the look on Aquaman's face.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know how you do this and, like, think, like, this was... Here's the thing. It's funny. It is really funny. Well, it says comic parody. I don't know where this was published, because it says comic parody.
I can't imagine they would actually put this in a comic book, but I don't know.
See that at the bottom of it, though? It says comic parody.
Oh, okay, yeah. I see that now.
Which, I got to tell you, kudos on the parody.
Yes.
Because it fooled me. Until I saw that part, I'm like, oh, okay, this isn't like... It's not legit. Somebody constructed this. I got to tell you, it was so good that it fooled me. And I was looking, I'm like, this can't be real.
Yeah.
I was looking because I felt like it was close enough that I'm like, oh, maybe it is.
Well, the artwork is like, it threw me. I'm like, yeah,
sure did.
That looks like 70s artwork to me. I'm like, okay, yeah. I'm like, what the heck? And I did not see that. So, okay, cool.
Todd McFarlane's Spawn film taps the Joker, Falcon, and Winter Soldier writers. I'm excited for a Spawn. Isn't Jamie Foxx, I think, is supposed to be Spawn, if I remember correctly?
Really? Cool.
I think, if I saw that correct. But I'm ready for another Spawn film. That's a character who I think... There's a visual style to Spawn with the chains and the whole, look to it that works on film. It works terrific in animation, too. So I'm glad to see that it's a property that's continuing to be tapped into for the big screen. I just think it's...
Yeah, and you think, especially now with the way CGI is and all that stuff, they could really do the dramatic flair and the pop and circumstance that we get from the Spawn book. So I think, that'll look pretty neat.
There's a final preview out for the Gotham Knights game and one for the co-op gameplay, which I really appreciate Jared continuing to give us these updates on this game. I gotta say, and I'm with him about being cautiously optimistic. I feel like the more I'm seeing with this one, it's something that I'm excited about, and I want it to be really great, and I hope it is, because I'm ready for like a Batman game, a superhero game. And I like the idea, the premise behind this is that you're striving to be Gotham's hero. Like, whatever character you choose, you're striving to be the one that, like, takes over for Batman.
Yeah.
I like that idea of building the new Batman out of this.
Yeah, it looks pretty cool. I'll be honest with you. Again, it's one of those things where I look, I'm like, I don't know, but I gotta wait to see the actual gameplay, the actual controls, and all that stuff. But I may be picking this up. I don't know. It's got me enough that I'm curious about it. It's not like a lot of games like, oh yeah, that could be cool, and I just move on and I don't think twice about it. This one I'm actually thinking about beyond just when we talk about it. So they're definitely doing an interesting job. I'm going to wait for it to come out, and I'll wait till you talk about it a little bit. Then that'll make my final decision.
Yeah, I pre-ordered the deluxe super version, whatever it was, because I knew I was going to be in on this one. But I hope it has a demo. And not for me, obviously, but I think more and more nowadays we're seeing games that people have confidence in coming out with demos.
Yeah.
And I hope this has some form of demo to it, because I think that's always a good sign. Not every game has demos, so it's not necessarily a bad sign if they don't, but I do think it's a good sign on the quality of a game when they put out a demo. So I hope this is a game that there is a way to have a demo for it. There was something, I keep forgetting this weekend was New York Comic Con weekend.
Yeah.
I really want to try and go next year. I've been missing going to that particular convention just because it's it's our this coast version of the San Diego Comic Con. I've always loved the New York Con. We used to have tables back in the day at the New York Comic Con, and I haven't been there in years. I would really love to hit that event again. This year was just not the year for it, but I'm keeping my fingers crossed that next year I'm thinking of circling back around and hitting that con, because I'm looking at that lineup. I would love to see, some of those panels. I love the artwork for the Superman panel.
Oh my God, dude. The new costume design has me going, that is cool. Okay. Yeah. I'm yes, every single one of them. So outstanding.
Yeah, I'm going to be curious to see what the focus is going to be, how they're doing that. I love that it looks like we're getting all of them. We're getting John, we're getting both Connors, we're getting, it's an interesting sort of plan here. Supergirl, I like her new look.
Yep.
If that's the route they're going, I'm anxious
I'm
to see.
assuming this picture is the route they're going. Now, the one I'm like with Natasha up in the upper corner, I was like, okay, that's a dramatic change for her. I like that.
Yeah, I do. I like that too.
Because she never really did have the big S on her costume. It was always her dad who had the, Steel who had the S.
Mm-hmm.
So I like her kind of embracing she is a part of this family. And again, it all stems from everything she did with Clark over on Warworld. So I'm like, yeah, all right.
It has me really excited. I mean, I'm looking at that and I'm like, okay, I'm excited. This is what cons do well. And I'm excited to wrap myself around that, just because I really do feel that's something this time of the year is really important for. Lazarus Planet, I didn't know this was coming. And this looks really cool. So spinning out of Batman vs. Robin is Lazarus Planet. So fingers crossed, it looks like Batman and Robin are going to, at least from what the cover looks like, they're going to be okay out of that event, which I'm not shocked by. But it looks like Poison Ivy, Monkey King, Cyborg, and Power Girl are going to be a part of it. Power Girl's a character I wouldn't mind seeing again. But there's more actually out of it. I mean, as you go down and take a look at a lot of the artwork.
Yeah.
There's looks like Dr. Fate, Martian Manhunter. I mean, this is universe encompassing. Superman's in it. This is really a big event. Who is in the red?
Red Canary.
Oh yeah. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Which, and again, I know I sounded a little snooty about that. I looked that up.
Okay.
Like, who is that? So I didn't know initially off the top of my head either.
So who is Red Canary?
That's Roy's daughter.
Oh, and that's what she's going by.
Yeah, that's her take on it now.
Has that already been done? Did I miss that somewhere?
Well, in the internet, it said she came out in Dark Crisis number 3. I don't remember reading her in Dark Crisis number 3.
I remember seeing her. I don't remember that being Red. I don't remember being named Red Canary.
Right.
I have to go back and look now. Admittedly, I'm not saying that that's wrong. I might have missed it. I feel like I would have caught that, though. Because
no, me too.
I love the costume and I love the look. I think it's great.
Yeah. And in the current issue of Dark Crisis, there's a picture of her staring at the Black Canary tribute wall, and I think she ends up joining Damian's team on that, his spin-off Battle. Oh, God, I'm drawing a blank now. Because Damian has his own little side group that takes on, because you see it in this current issue where he's leaving, to form that team.
Oh, yeah. You're talking about in Dark Crisis that he's forming a team. Yes, absolutely.
Right. And I
forget the name of the team too, but I know I'm spot on with you. So that'd be great. So maybe that's where we're gonna see her more fleshed out on that team. We haven't seen the reunion yet between her and Roy though, right?
Right. I don't remember it.
Okay. I want to check and see if there's somewhere that I maybe missed. I get behind all the time. I've got like stockpiles of books that I want to read, and I'm afraid I want to jump something to the top of the stack if I missed a story because I would love to read it. I don't care where it is. If anybody listening knows any further stories involving Red Canary that we should have read, please point them out, put them in a Facebook group, or send us an email or something because I would like to know what I'm missing there.
Yes, please.
Do you get into, I know you and I are different when it comes to gaming, but we grew up kind of in the same era of gaming. I was like, so when the Genesis came out, I was a big fan of Sonic the Hedgehog, still am to this day. So I saw both of the Sonic movies and they were really terrific. And those were ones where I walked into the first one hoping I was going to dig it, and I did. I really enjoyed it. So anybody listening to this gives you kind of a context as far as if you didn't like it, you know that like I'm coming at it from the standpoint of I liked those movies a great deal. I'm going to steal this from Jared. I'm cautiously optimistic about Mario. I'm hoping it's more Sonic than anything else because this is a great era with Illumination, and Illumination's behind this.
Yeah.
Their movies have traditionally been good stories. They've been funny, a lot of character depth to them. I'm hoping this is in that vein, and if so, they'll have me on this. I'm fingers crossed on this one. I know we're a DC podcast, but they post this in the Facebook group and agree with them posting it because I'm glad we get a chance to just shout it out. What was your gaming background with that kind of stuff? Did you like platformers? Was that ever a thing of yours?
Oh yeah, I think so. I liked the Sega Genesis. I just was never really that good at it, so it never held my attention span that long because I'd always get so far into the game, and when it got to the easy stuff, I could handle. Okay. When it got to the more difficult stuff, that's where I always died. I'm like, I keep trying it and trying. Like I find I'm just going to go outside. And
there were no level saves. That was in an era where you didn't save levels. Mario, when you got into the Super Nintendo, and I think there was some on the NES too. I'm going to go back. I think some of the NES ones, because of how big they were, they started having battery saves in them. But the early Mario games did not. Battery saves became the greatest thing in the world. And nowadays with having the hard drives and everything, the fact that you can play the game, beat a level, and then come back later, that works for a sense of progress. But I remember Sonic playing it straight on through, and eventually you turn into like Super Sonic if you get all the gems and stuff, and played it through as Super Sonic, and it was fun. I mean, I love that kind of stuff. My first Mario I completed was the one for the Super Nintendo, Super Mario World. I loved that game. And I loved all the hidden, because like you could end certain levels two different ways, and it would take you to a secret path. And it had the big world map, and that one did have a battery save, and I loved that game. So I'm a big fan of platformers. Nostalgia-wise, I'm hoping that's good. So I'm walking in cautiously optimistic because I want that to be good.
And I'll be honest, I'm probably not going to see this movie.
I figured that was going to be the case. That's why I was asking the question. I figured...
Yeah, I'm pretty confident.
I'm going to.
Would see it on HBO or something like that, or Netflix or something, on one of the streaming services we have. I maybe would go, let me give it a try. If enough people talk about how fun it is, like when you talk about the Sonic movie, I heard very few people other than you just now saying that it was a good movie.
Really?
People say, "Oh God, this thing was absolute."
Well, here's the thing: it's generated a sequel and it's getting a third movie. So people are if they aren't liking it, they're certainly going to it. So it's strange to hear that because of the fact that it's generated. There's going to be a third movie.
Yeah, I know. And again, the way where I've heard with that was, oh my God, why is this thing getting a third movie? Why did it get a sequel? So I don't know.
Yeah.
So I haven't watched it. Maybe if I can find it, maybe I would watch it. Same thing on the Super Mario Brothers.
Yeah.
Maybe, but I highly doubt I will ever see these movies.
Do you like the other animation output from Illuminations? Like, did you see Despicable Me? Did you like any of that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I've seen the Despicable Me's. Yeah.
My wife and I both like those movies, so it's I see all those Minions movies and everything with her, and that was fun. Slumberland. Did you watch the trailer for this?
No, I did not.
This looks really good. These original movies that we're getting out of Netflix and Jason Momoa in that movie. This one looks good. I'm a big fan of Jason Momoa, so if he's making a movie or a show, like I saw C on Apple TV, I love that. He tends to be a guy that just anything he does, I end up watching. This looks pretty good.
Yeah. Well, again, I see his name, I hit like, because anything he's done, I've absolutely enjoyed. And I mean, any project he's been in, I'm like, okay, I'm in. He seems like the kind of guy that, it's one, it's his job, his paycheck, but you can tell he doesn't just throw it at anything. He's like, I got to want to do this thing. There's got to be a personal connection to, or some type of passion or some type of enjoyment. So, yeah, I'll give this a try.
I want this one to be true. Henry Cavill returning as Superman. And the reason why I'm tentative on that one, and we got some comments on there saying the same thing. He was so good as Superman. I felt like Man of Steel needs a true sequel. I would love to see him play the character again. And I hope this is true. Would you be up for another movie with him as Superman?
100%. Yeah. 100%. He is outstanding as Superman.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, I've heard reports from him saying that he would be willing to play Superman again. He enjoyed the character, but again, he ran into issues with studios and all that kind of stuff where he's like, okay, I'll just do this other stuff. And so I don't think it was him not wanting to play the role. I think it was the studios being, studios and not being smart about stuff. He is a great Superman.
I would my one caveat would be, I would not don't worry about over connecting it to anything. Just write a good Superman movie, put him in it, and go. And that's not. By the way, I'm a fan of his previous appearances, so I'm not saying that in the other ones weren't so. What I'm saying right now though is what needs to happen with DC films is don't worry about the Marvel method.
Right.
Just good like Black Adam right now. Nobody's talking about what is this connected to.
Right.
I mean, and I think Superman's got to be the same thing. I think you can connect them in the ways that you have with crypto and stuff like that, where you do these little winking and nods to them. That's great. But for right now, just establish that when you make a DC film, you're making great movies.
Yeah.
And that can organically lead to interconnectivity if you need to, or interconnect it when the story calls for it. I'm really excited if this is going to be true. It's just kind of like the tentative nature of some of the posts there. I'm with them. I'm like, I keep hearing this. I just want to see it happen. But that's not me being a negative Nelly. It's I want it that badly that I'm afraid to go all in on it just because I just want to see it.
Yes.
Neil Gaiman's and Dave McKean's Violent Cases. Have you read this?
No, I haven't.
It's terrific. So Ben Kingsley being in this is going to be phenomenal. I'm really looking forward to that. I think I'm even more high on it because his adaptations are just getting better and better. Especially when you take a look at things like things like Sandman. So it's please, more Neil Gaiman adaptations if you're going to do them like this.
Well, and again, you throw out the names Neil Gaiman and Ben Kingsley, and I'm like, yes, I'm in. Without even knowing what Violent Cases is about, I'm assuming it's about some type of criminal investigation kind of thing. I'm assuming, but let's see where this goes because again, Neil Gaiman is one of those names that I see his name attached to something. I see it's based on his work. And especially now, they're really understanding that if you want to do an adaptation of a Gaiman project, you got to make sure it honors the original project. And I think he has a solid hand in making sure it honors what it, so it's not like, It's not going to be a Dolph Lundgren Punisher. It's not going to be completely this thrown off out of kilter. It's going to follow with the story he crafted. And then again, you add someone like Ben Kingsley on it. So okay, there we go. We've got solid, some solid foundation here for this is going to be awesome.
Did you read the Batman the Audio Adventures special that came out?
Yes, I did.
The new one, which it takes place after the last round of audios.
Yes.
So it's in between season 1 and season 2 that we're getting. I really, really liked it because it's the writer from the Audio Adventures that's writing the comic. So the tone is right. The story, the way the characters carry themselves is right. It really feels like a true, I can hear the voices from the audio in this, and that's something where it's really a home run victory. So if you're listening to this and you liked those audio adventures, seek this out. It's well worth it. It's a really good book.
And I'll be honest with you, I haven't listened to the audio stuff as much as you, but
you haven't listened to all 10 episodes of that yet?
No.
Oh, wow, that's really good.
I haven't been able to. Again, it's one of those things where I can't listen to it while working because I stop working.
Uh-huh.
So I got to find a time when I'm not doing anything and I can sit down and just listen to it. But
right.
Even not having that solid lock, it still was an enjoyable read.
Yeah, it's a good book on its own.
Yeah, it's a good book on its own, is what I'm saying.
Harley Quinn's getting a Valentine's special on HBO Max in 2023. I like that they're doing this, taking advantage of the streaming medium to do one-shots and specials like that, because Disney Plus is doing that with things like Werewolf by Night and things. So I'm glad to see that we're continuing to do that.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I love that. I saw this, I was like, yes, that's cool. Because again, I really do like this story of these two. I love how they crafted it, how they built it up, and where they're going with it. And it's, anytime I see, Ivy and, Harley together, I'm like, this is going to be good.
Joe Quesada is coming back to DC to draw variant covers for, starting with variant covers for Batman. I adore his artwork. I loved his DC stuff back in the day. The idea that we're getting, I never even thought that there was a possibility that we're going to be getting Joe Quesada at, just because he'd been at Marvel for so long. I didn't think that was going to be a thing. That is outstanding. And we're getting an Icon versus Hardware miniseries as part of the upcoming Milestone 30th anniversary special. Or I should say as part of the 30th anniversary of Milestone. There's also going to be a 30th anniversary special. Great for, new stuff with Milestone, and I would love to read Icon versus Hardware.
Yes, I 100% want to see that.
Those Batman Spawn variant covers are terrific. I want every one of them.
Yeah.
That's, terrific.
I'll tell you, they have a bunch of variant covers for the Batman Spawn.
Yeah.
Because that's something like, wow. And again, this is some great artwork. This is something I wouldn't mind if they did a collection of these things and put them together and do. That's the kind of book I would like to get, a cover collection.
And Barnes and Noble is going to have the variant covers too, which is really cool. There's going to be a Barnes and Noble store release, which is something that they said hasn't happened since Detective 1000. I'm just glad to see comics anywhere else. That idea is great. Terrific that we're going to be seeing that. Comics being I can't remember the last time I walked into, and that used to be a regular thing for me, going into bookstores, checking out trade paperbacks, checking out, the shelves when they had them for single issues of comics. And I think it's an important partnership for comics to have just another vehicle, not as competition for comic shops, but just as another outlet and awareness for them. Trades, I think, more than anything else, really thrive at a bookstore. It's kind of like a no-brainer for that audience. That was big during the Vertigo era, and obviously manga has been something that you would always grab from the bookstores as well. So I'm glad to see that partnership is continuing. It's needed. We used to, remember we got to dinner and head over to the bookstore. Either before or after. What was the place where it was Borders?
Borders, yeah.
Yeah, Borders was right above the restaurant that we'd go to. What was it, the Cooker?
Yes.
Yeah. And there was when we were waiting for our table, you could go upstairs to Borders and browse around. It was a good gig.
Nothing like the handy-dandy electro claw for carving through metal doors.
Our next discussion is on Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths, issue number 5. The script by Joshua Williamson, art by Daniel Sampere, colors by Alejandro Sanchez, letterer Tom Napolitano, cover by Sampere and Sanchez. Variant covers by Ivan Rice, Danny Mickey and Brad Anderson, Ariel Colin, Mikhail Janin, Mateus Manhanini. Sampere and Sanchez also did a variant cover. Pia Guerrera and Frank Whiteley. The associate editor is Chris Rosa. Group editor is Paul Kaminsky. And, of course, Superman was created by Cleveland's own Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster. Supergirl, based on characters created by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster, by special arrangements with the Jerry Siegel family.
That cover is absolutely the main cover I'm talking about. I'm not taking anything away from the alternate covers, but I'm looking at this main cover, seeing the League back again. I wanted to see this at this point. Boy, what I loved about this issue is we get some further clarification on what is actually happening to the League. And it's not good news. Nope. I was pretty sure that they were still alive. And that's not really the story here.
Or is it? Now, here's the thing. Yeah. It's Pariah telling them that.
Well, I think Pariah is telling the truth.
You've been erased from existence. If you go back to Earth Zero, you disappear. Is he 100% being honest? Is there something the League can do that goes beyond that? Can they be brought back? I don't know. I'm assuming they can be.
I think you're saying two different things there, though.
Right.
Because on that end, you're asking, is he being honest? Well, and I mean, we might disagree on this. I think he's being honest. Now, where I agree, can the League do something? Yeah. But is that the way the story's going to go? I don't know. Because I also see them being willing to make the sacrifice, but the sacrifice not necessarily being the end of the story for them, if that makes any sense. So I think it's going to be complicated. I loved that twist because it really is adding, we're 5 issues in, we got 2 more left. It's adding an intensity for issue 6 and 7 for this. And it's dawning on me now that we're getting close to the end. We got November and December to wrap this bad boy up. And boy, there's story to be told here.
Yeah. Well, and again, I just to let you know, I 100% think Pariah is telling the truth. I don't think he's lying. Mm-hmm. I think he set this up so that they couldn't come back. They could only exist, so they got to keep feeding his machine. They got to keep feeding this being in this alternate world, and they can't ever leave. So I think I think that was true. But again, we see, in this issue and also in Deadly Green that they're getting the original hardware that he used.
Yeah.
And that's in hands of Mr. Terrific. So I'm thinking we've got some magic coming from Mr. Terrific. Plus the heroes, as we saw what Clark did, they're able to pull energy from that universe itself, because Clark did a little transformation, where he got himself powered up. So I think, yes, Pariah thinks he's trapped them, but I don't think he's, either thought things completely through or he's underestimated the heroes. It's gut check time for them.
I think he's thought everything through. And I think he's winning right now, but there's also, I think they're doing things that he hasn't expected too. And so I think it's a little bit of A and a little bit of B. I actually like the dire nature of this, where this is bad. I mean, this issue in particular is really, really bad. I mean, we start off with that Battle of the Legion of Doom, where we're seeing Grant Morrison's version of the 52 Worlds really being shattered. Which that's been around since... 52? That whole era. And I love that we're getting to see again a continued evolution. That's what's meant to happen with all of this. It's not that's being thrown out. It's now everything's being reimagined and reworked. And this battle with Black Adam and the Legion of Doom was awesome because he's so confident and so and we've seen him hold his own and survive. The Legion of Doom's a different beast for him.
Well, he's not fighting heroes who hold back.
Right.
He's fighting pure villains who want to kill him, who want to completely contain him and then corrupt him with the darkness. They want to convert him over or kill him. Join us or die is their mantra. And that they're being true on that. I thought that, for me, great opening battle. And then I love the heroes that come in to save the day, especially when I saw Sideways. I'm like, oh my God, I forgot all about that guy. Outstanding.
It's interesting as you take a look at, they rescue Black Adam, and you see the Hall of Justice, and really we see every hero who's left gathering together and trying to formulate a plan, analyzing what's going on, and really targeting Slade, thinking that Slade is the key. And I get why. You're trying to take out at least one of the generals in this whole thing. But it's also clear we know as readers, and I think I think we as readers knew certain things at this point, but this also does not hesitate to go out of the way and clarify that what you think you know is only the tip of the iceberg. And
again, I like how it was, I like seeing Nightwing back on his own 2 feet, back in command, back taking, charge. He sends out, the rescue mission to get, Black Adam. Also had Mr. Terrific, and the T-Spheres did the scan. So now they 100% know Deathstroke is the key. And I like that, they, again, little bits here, they're adding to it, and they're operating as a team needs to operate.
Yeah.
I love seeing again, you love seeing the heroes rally, and then, just the rise up of the heroes, and just, okay, it's gut check time, guys. We need to step up. And that's when the really great hero stories are, where it's not that the villain makes a mistake. As I said before, with Pariah, did he calculate everything? Yeah, he did. Pariah is a great villain, but Pariah isn't all of the villain. The bit of this is the darkness. Who corrupted who? What came first, the chicken or the egg? And I love how with this story, Pariah, he's right now our focus villain, but is he truly the darkness? Is there something else? Did Pariah corrupt the darkness? Did the darkness corrupt Pariah? And I love the fact that we still 100% don't know the answer to that. And that's going to be something we're going to learn, I'm thinking, in issue 7. We're going to finally learn who the true big bad behind all of this has been. So again, it's one of the things about this Dark Crisis story is every issue keeps getting me more pumped and more amped for the next issue.
So you don't think next issue we're going to find that out?
I don't know. Because part of me is thinking we're going to, because issue 7 could be an aftermath issue. With us finding out at the end of issue 6 who the big bad is, and then issue 7 is the final battle with that big bad.
That's what I mean.
We may find out at the end of issue 6, what is actually going on with this, and then issue 7 is the conclusion of it. So
I think we have to find out in issue 6 because issue 7. There has to be some resolution to this.
Yeah. Well, also I'm thinking it could be Damian's story could actually show it as well. His the Dark Crisis, the Dark Army is his book that's spinning out of this.
So you don't think the book that we're going to talk about this episode, answered that question?
Well, Dark Deadly Green, yes, but there's still some, I don't know, I still had some questions on that.
Really? Okay, we'll have to talk about that when we get to it, because I thought that was pretty clear as far as what's going on with Pariah, but I'd be interested to talk to you about that, because it's cool to see this Infinite Earths. Boy, beautiful artwork. It's funny when you see sometimes destruction and chaos and change. I love that it looks like a DNA strand. Everything that's going on with the Infinite
double helix.
Yeah. It's really, really cool. It's very beautiful, very stunning. I get your point about him being corrupted. It's almost like, is the Great Darkness rebelling against him in those sequences where you see him clutching his head?
Yeah.
Oh, Great Darkness, I hear you. I hear your hate. I will keep my promise. Life comes from death, and the crisis will come. So it's almost like he made this bargain to get what he wanted, so that way he could recreate the worlds. He's a driving force, but I'm pretty clear it's not that simple.
Right.
And we're going to. I can't wait to talk about the next issue we're going to talk about in this, because I think there's a lot to discuss, a lot to unpack what's going on there. When you get with magic in the DC universe, it's never fully clean.
No, and it's one of the things that when I was a kid used to turn me off the magic stories. I like the straightforward, clean hero comes in, punches the bad guy, moves on. Whereas the magic stuff, it's always kind of some weirdo stuff. now I love that weirdo stuff.
We see two of our remaining Lanterns, Kyle and what's her name? The detective one. I really like her. I feel terrible. I don't remember her name.
I'm drawing a blank.
Yeah. But, I mean, she's great. I mean, she was in that detective story, which was really awesome. I like her as a character. But they've been captured by Pariah, and there's a real sense of danger there with that everything that's surrounding them. I mean, especially that cast of characters, from Darkseid to Doomsday to Eclipso. I mean, they've got the Necron. I mean, that is, any one of them is a threat. But all of them together really adds this sense of danger, which is really cool. What do you think about Bruce?
I'm so want to read Bruce's Little World. I want to know what created this, why he's more of a clock than a bat, but he still has the bat symbol. So I don't know what happened to him. I'm so desperate to read this story.
Yeah.
Because, again, it looks really cool. And I love how, again, Barry's being Barry. He's dealing with Bruce, but Bruce prepared for him. He developed a device to steal the Speed Force. And again, it was really neat to see Hal ring up. That was something like, he's like, wait a minute, these are just illusions. It's really here. And he brings back his ring. And how does he bring back Bruce? By showing him his family. I absolutely love that image where he pulls up everybody. Love the fact that it was the full Bat family. And even I liked how he had Babs waving to him. Hi, and again, it fit just perfectly in there. And that's what snaps Bruce out of it. So
I love that Hal being able to do that, though, is partly on Bruce and partly on Barry. Because, Barry, did you hear that? He knows you. And if he prepared, that means our Bruce is still in there. That's where the world started fading.
Yep.
Bruce started recognizing somebody, so there was that connection. It gave Hal the doorway. I really loved how that played out. And leading into the piece that you were talking about. That was really great writing.
Oh, big time. And again, it does show why it's Hal. I'm a Jon Stewart guy, 100% full and through, but I do like the fact that Hal Jordan actually does do stuff like this, where it goes beyond. He goes sometimes beyond what the other Lanterns can do. So it would make sense that he would be able to ring up and go, no, I can bypass this. And he knows these people so well. When this all first came out, when he first got back to Earth and found it, he's like, hold on, they're not dead. We got to find them. And again, right from the very beginning, he's always been following, the trail, following, the evidence. He's an intergalactic cop. He's got to follow the evidence, see where it leads. And then when he linked up with Barry, again, two cops doing the investigation on it. I loved how they've been playing these two off, going to each one at a time. And again, starting with Bruce is your best choice.
So when we're back at the other team, Jaime rejected the call. Is that what happened there? Blue Beetle is refusing to step up. Is he one of the ones that rejected? Is that who we're seeing there?
I thought that was him, but I don't know.
Because I thought that's the bug, right?
No, I thought that's the communicator in front of him.
That looks like the bug. See, I think it's the bug in front of him.
Maybe Jaime did reject it, but I thought I saw him in the battle sequence later on.
No, he's not there.
It's the other. Okay, it's the other Blue Beetle.
Right.
That's who I saw. Yeah. So Jaime rejected the call.
Yeah. Well, there's a story there.
Yes.
I liked seeing when Gar came. When Gar came back on the scene. I love those heroic moments.
Yeah.
Where, especially after everything that was there, he's come out the other side. Now, what does come out the other side mean? We'll see, as the battles go on. But I loved seeing the heroic step up. That's a Teen Titans moment. Yes. Where you see them, they're down, but they're not out. He's been hurt bad, but he's willing to step up again and stick with his family. And that's what the Titans together. Titans are a family. I really loved the moment with him and Dick Grayson. He knows that, Dick was there for him. And it was really cool to see. I think it's a veteran hero moment. He's been through a lot in his life. We've seen stories where, this isn't the first time that he's been beaten down in the worst emotional way possible, right? But yet he still rises back up, and I love that. That's classic DC when you see that kind of thing, and I was really glad to see that sequence play out.
And I loved seeing the students from Titans Academy. Not all of them show up, but enough showed up that they're like, hey, Academy was our home, and we want to help, and they're stepping up. And then, again, it was a really neat moment with, as you're saying, how with Gar there, and I love how he's initially comes in, he's leaning up against the wall, he's beaten up, but he's, hey, I'm on my feet, I'm fighting. And as I say, I've said a couple times already this issue, gut check time. And those are the great hero moments. And again, I love how they're coming up with a plan. They're like, hey, we got the Titans first line of defense. JSA is going to go handle the multiverse situation. So JSA is handling that. Part of me is thinking the JSA helps bring the JLA back. That's, and then again, I love how this all played out where as this is going, then John comes in, with the team that was in the Deadly Green saying, hey, we found this. This is the original stuff that Pariah had, so they're like, okay, get it to the lab,
Well,
and again.
But let's talk about what else they found, because that's the piece. I mean, might as well just go there, because he's shouting it out. I mean, that's really the piece he's starting out. The Great Darkness is not controlling Pariah. Pariah's mind has corrupted it. We weren't able to find out how. There's something at work here. What is that? So are you thinking there might be a third party that's...
Yes. I'm thinking there's a third party involved, not just Pariah corrupting the darkness.
Okay.
But again, I'm not 100% certain on that.
Yeah, I'm not...
You think back to we're going to get to it in a minute, the Deadly Green conversation that Constantine was having.
Right.
There was a lot of stuff going back and forth about, the corruption isn't what you think, and all that kind of, who's actually corrupting who. So in one hand, it could be that Pariah is corrupting the darkness, and that's the only person. But there's still something in the back of my head that's thinking, is it just Pariah? Is there something else we're going to find out at the last minute?
I don't know how much more you can throw at these people.
Yeah, I know. But again, I'm excited for it because they're doing a great job with laying out everything.
Oh, I know. I'm not knocking and saying that. It's just the opposite. But I mean, I guess at this point, I'm wondering if you need that, because we've only got 2 more issues, and there's a lot of ground to cover here.
Yeah, 100%. They don't need to do that. They could 100% be. It's Pariah who corrupted the darkness in his pursuit of whatever his pursuit of bringing back the multiverse. The infinite Earths. 100% could be the story, and I'd be cool with that. Yeah. But there is just something in the back of my head that's just like, that little, but is it all of it?
I get that.
They got one more swerve waiting for us. And that's what I'm just thinking, because they've been doing some brilliant swerves in this. And that's what I'm like, it's issue 5, but are we going to get one more swerve? We're going into issue 6 thinking Pariah corrupted the darkness. Okay, we've got that figured out. Surprise!
Well, here's the thing, though. In issue 6, what we've also got is an army that is ready to trounce on them.
Yes.
Because they're going up against Slade and his army and actually doing a really good job in the battle. I mean, they are ready to win this particular battle. Ready to.
Yes.
And then the next wave comes in, and they realize they're fighting a losing battle all along, which is amazing. I love the "We're the Titans" bit. He and Black Adam are arguing again, and you see Dick Grayson step up, and it's a very, very different conversation when he steps up there. And
I love that line.
Yep.
You are not the Justice League. We never were. We're the Titans. And I love how it was Gar who transforms into the tiger and goes, Titans together.
Yep.
Had to be him calling out that one. Again, it's always neat to see who does the battle cry for the Titans. A lot of times it is Nightwing doing it, but sometimes somebody else gets the roar. 100% should have been Beast Boy on this one. And I was like, yes! I cheered for this moment. This right here, this is one of those, I want a poster of this right here. Especially even with him saying, we're the Titans. I want this whole thing turned into a giant poster.
Well, that really is the rally cry, we're the Titans, when he comes running out, because everyone's running behind him. I like that Gar was kind of putting the exclamation point on it in the end in his own way with doing that. So we get our answer, too, about Rose.
Yeah. Yeah, I felt bad about that. He did corrupt her, so. But again, I do wonder if these people can fight the corruption. I really wonder if they're able to resist it even after they've been corrupted, or if it's going to have to be pulled out of them. because she's one of the characters I want to see fight the corruption. Darkseid is, I still think, going to be someone who fights the corruption. Just because he's Darkseid. He's not anybody's servant. He is the master. And I can see him, that notion of him being, manipulated and used like a puppet, just making him rise up and fight it. And she's also, Rose is one of the ones I also think when she's getting ready to do the kill shot on Nightwing, she's fighting it.
So the funny part about this is this idea that Pariah wanted what's happening here with the heroes. Like, he wanted them to get together. He's engineered, like, this is something that he eventually wanted them to be able to fight against and to discover. And you think about the energy that's put off from this, you kind of get it. Because they are rebelling against this, which is, there's got to be an energy output relating to that. I loved the Superman bits in this. And
How outstanding was it that Clark knew the whole time what was going on?
Yep.
And he just was buying the time to explore and try to figure out how he can get out of it. But he knew 100% this wasn't real. I absolutely love that because, again, when we went through and we talked about his story, we could see how he would be locked in or how he wouldn't look beyond that because it is a great life for him. But Clark being Clark, he didn't just settle for this. He's actually moving on and he's noticing what's going on and absolutely love this.
Well, I love that he's sitting here saying that he thought he could trap me with my family and that would be enough, but it's still a world without a Justice League. And I love that that whole idea kind of gets it together. He's like, the thing that we need to focus on is our friends. Our friends are our way back. It was such a great sequence there. I love in these dark issues, there's been a hoorah moment, and I think in every one of them, multiple ones, where you got page after page of, boy, they're getting beat down. And there's something. There's a glimmer. There's hope, which the DC Universe does a really nice job with. Joshua Williamson really understands the DC Universe and what makes it special, what's important about writing a DC story. You could do this same event with Marvel characters, and it would be a great event. But it would have a very different tone and premise, and the heroes would handle it differently because the Marvel Universe is just different. And I love the difference and the distinction. I think your writers that are truly talented love playing with that difference and really embracing it. And I think over the years we've seen times where both universes have tried to be a little more like the other. And it's never been a good thing. It's when they embrace what they are at their core as a universe, it's when you get the really special stories. And I think this is a great example of that. In that distinction, because you and I have both been some serious Marvel fans throughout our entire lives, just as much as DC fans. I think we both love that aspect of it.
Yes. Oh, big time. And it's again this image of I'm calling it cosmic Superman because I love how each one of them is getting a completely different look based on this private world. And when they're jumping worlds, they're keeping their private look. Like Diana's got her look, Bats has got his look, now Clark is this cosmic. Later on when we see the others pulled in, it's that alternate universe, that their prison world, that they're still latching on to that image and that look to them. So I don't know if it's because, again, the displacing the energy, or if that's what's going to be the final key when it's, basically breaking out of this fake world. We're going to get them back in their true look, their true appearance. I don't know, but I like how they're keeping it connected with these imaging.
So this is interesting where you get to see, the Justice League and the revelation of, you're dead. I killed you. Your existence is tied to these new worlds. So they're not dead as long as the new worlds still exist.
Right.
But once those new worlds are gone, they're gone. He's put them in a trap that if he wins, they get to live. If he doesn't, they don't. That's really the conundrum there. Is that how you're reading this?
Yes. That he set it up. Well, he needs the worlds for his machine.
Right.
And if they leave the worlds, then it takes away the power from the machine, but it also kills them.
Right.
So that's how I'm, reading that he, so I said I believe what he's saying is the truth. But
yes.
There's, again, it's the Justice League. There's going to be another way, and that's why I was thinking JSA, because they're investigating the whole multiverse thing. So the Infinite Universe. So I'm wondering if the JSA moves into the mix and kind of like throws a wrench into the works.
That's this ending with the True Darkness showing up.
Yes.
It was because he's got a whole other army behind him. It makes I don't want to say it makes Slade look small, but Slade is but one of many. Any one of them could be providing an army just like Slade. Seeing the Spectre in the background was
that
stunning.
Is holy crud! That right there is some power level. If you can capture the Spectre, that is like huge. And every one of these people we're seeing here is an epic level event type of monster, and they're all together, corrupted by the darkness or corrupted by Pariah, whichever the case is, or I don't know. So again, I love this ending because the heroes are fighting back and they're doing their thing, and we got the JLA is trying to figure out how they can maybe use the machine to their advantage, but as it's this great story where it's just boom, 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 multiple explosions going on finally, and then you get the big boom at the end, and you're just like, oh, and again, next, death to the DC universe. They may be killing off the universe. This may actually be happening, and that may be how they win, is by erasing everything. But I can't believe that's the ending. I don't believe that the ending is going to be complete erasure, and brand new multiverse, the new return of the infinite universes and all that. And it's not going to be something as clean as that. There's got to be something else that happens. And I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm excited for it.
Yeah, I feel like it's going to be something different. I feel like it's going to be maybe a combination of elements. Yeah, what does victory mean, and who actually wins in this is going to be an interesting sort of piece. Want to talk about the Deadly Green?
Yes.
He is called Hawkman. His gauntlets possess awesome powers.
Our next discussion is on Dark Crisis, The Deadly Green. The writers are Ram V, Alex Paknadel, it's Paknadel, Dan Waters. Artists are Daniel Bayliss, pages 1 to 9, Tom Derenick, pages 10 to 17, 31 to 39, George Kambadais, it's Kambadais on pages 21 to 25, Brent Peebles on pages 18 to 20, 26 to 30, and 40. Colors by Matt Herms. Letters by Troy Pateri. Cover by Goni Montez. Variant covers by Steve Beach, Felipe Massafera. Editor is Chris Rosa. Group editor is Paul Kaminsky. Superman created by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster by special arrangement with the Jerry Siegel family. And apologies for any name butchery there, because I know I definitely got some in. This was a cool book, and I liked the combination of creative that was involved in this one because it's a big story that has teams kind of splitting off, to a certain extent, telling the story of what it's like to go inside the darkness, what it's like to be on the outside looking in, how you truly do battle this. And I've always loved the relationship between Jenny Lynn, Todd, and Alan Scott. And the fact that this is embracing this is exactly why I'm so glad these characters are back. This issue brings everyone up to speed. So if you've never read JSA before, you've never read Infinity Inc. before, you've never read these characters before, this is a primer for who they are, what their relationship's like, what they do for each other. And I really loved this character piece because these are characters that have been some of my favorites since the 80s. It really was in the 80s that I started to get into characters in Infinity Inc. and JSA and really get to know who they were. And I was always fascinated by them. And a lot of that came from crossovers. But it's so good to see these characters back and being so well utilized in this.
Yeah, I'll agree with you on that. And especially I liked how, with in this one issue, you get a really solid idea of who the three are.
Yep.
Because that, again, this is a great Swamp Thing story, which, again, it did a brilliant job with Swamp Thing in it, another brilliant job with John, showing who is Superman and Raven. So all the characters, and, of course, Constantine, but, it really, those three that you mentioned are three that people may not have a good understanding with. And I still don't have as solid as understanding as you do, but, again, when I was reading this, I completely felt true and natural. There was no point in time, as I'm going through this, I was waiting for the moment for Jenny to help out her brother, waiting for her brother and the father to work together and to, basically to, kind of reel it in and control it and protect each other. Because, again, it's the moment of, I love how, when, Todd's worried about, hurting his dad. And he's like, you're not going to hurt him. There's no way you would allow that to happen. And it's just that familial confidence in each other. That knowing that we've got each other's back is absolutely just. I love those moments in this issue, and again, I love it when they actually, in some of the stuff I've read outside of this. But again, it was a really neat thing to add to this. Last when we were talking about Dark Crisis, we were talking about the heroes. It's gut check time, it's step up time. That big thing. Same kind of gut check, same kind of step up time, but it had more of a personal, emotional connection on this one. So I love how we got two books, both having the same hero, moments, but it being more of an emotional connection this time versus that physical. Okay, I'm beaten, I'm still standing, I'm still fighting. I love that kind of just that difference in the two books, but still keeping that same groove. And this is all in a title of Dark Crisis. I love the fact that all these Dark Crisis books really do show the heroes stepping up, shows that what makes them heroes, what makes them people that we want to inspire to be like. It's not the flying, it's not the powers, it's who they are on the inside. It's the, just that personal, just that human nature that they have going through them. I absolutely loved this issue along with, reading this along with Infinite Crisis, with Dark Crisis, was absolutely wonderful. I'm so glad they came out. So glad we talked about them.
This needed to be a one-shot because if you look what's going on in the main Dark Crisis story, plopping this in there would really derail like the momentum of what's going on in the miniseries proper, because it's got a tight story that's being told right there. I love one-shots like this because it's like, okay, while this was going on upstairs, here's what the magic users were using down below. And it makes a lot of sense to, say, hey, we split off into teams, and these teams had adventures that are really critical to the overarching story. And here's why. And it was a great chance for these characters to shine. There was a lot of people that were covered in this where you got a nice glimpse. And crossovers at their best, they were the places where I got to know characters that I didn't know. I hadn't had storytelling. I hadn't read before, or had only seen like in a Brave and the Bold one time or something like that, and hadn't seen them, how they fit into the larger picture. This was a great way to really remind us that, hey, we had this Justice League title going on, and remember, in the basement, Justice League Dark was gathering? Well, here's what those people are doing. And it was great. And integrating then Swamp Thing, integrating, both Swamp Things, integrating Dr. Fate and the Justice League and, Justice Society, I should say, into this whole story. And the newer heroes. You've got Wonder Girl, and here I want her to have some form of place.
Yeah. Yep.
Because her book being canceled has left kind of a hole for me, because I really, really enjoyed that title. So I'm hoping there's a vehicle for her after this, so we get to see more of that character.
Yeah, if not a solo book, a team book, or I don't know. Again, I still think an Amazon book would be outstanding.
Yeah.
You do the three different Amazon tribes and just you do one book, putting them all together. I think it would work.
Selfishly, I'd like her to have her own title, and the reason being, I like her having a chance to explore her relationships. Not the team book you're referencing, or the Amazon anthology book, or whatever format you see that taking. I would totally pick up that book, so I'm not like sitting there going, boy, that's a crazy idea. No, I'm in. I'd pick that up too. The thing I liked about her title was it was very character driven, very character focused, and gave her a chance to expand as a character. I was sad that it was canceled so quickly.
Yeah, me too. And again, my ideal thing would be her having her own book. Continuing on what they did, because that book was awesome.
Yeah.
I think it just I don't think they gave it enough time to really build an audience. I think they pulled the pin on that one too quickly.
I agree.
But if they're not going to do that, then let's go with something else. Let's try something else. Maybe get more of this character out there. Put her on the Justice League. Put her on Titans. Something. She's a great character, and I feel bad that she's not being used. And if it was up to us, there'd be like 1,000 titles. Everybody would get their own book. You get a book, and you get a book, and you get a book. But unfortunately, the powers that be don't just think that way.
But that's also a sign that this was a great issue, because that's stemming out of this issue and what they've done. Alan Scott, and I love how they're talking about the nature of his ring, and it's more magic based, because that was always a thing. Alan's whole Green Lantern thing was a little different than Hal's, was a little different than John's. He predated all of them, and there was that component to it, which I thought was great. Even his weakness back in the day, being wood based, it was, has evolved and shifted over time. But what Alan Scott is and where his powers come from has been something that they've continued to develop over the years. This whole bit with Todd and him and what they're doing and the risk to Alan, it's like, your ring is a gateway in. I can, and really talking about how his ring relates to darkness. Todd being like, well, I can tap into this, but I need to make sure you understand the risks here, and you're my dad. I don't want this to happen to you.
But also, I love how he's like, you would never come back, and neither would anyone in the ring.
Right.
So he doesn't want to risk the people going in. But again, great moment where it was Superman who steps up and says, "Everyone here believes in you." And it's that moment of they completely trust him. You've got this, man. And again, those are the kind of moments that I was like, yeah. And again, I'm saying Superman said this, not John. Because this is a Superman moment. And they even later say, later when they're talking about the team being chosen, how Superman's going just because he knew if his father was there, he wouldn't want anybody else to take the risk.
Right.
He's going to take the risk. And again, I love just that moment of, again, this little explanation on who's doing what and why they're doing it, why they picked this team. It's an absolute brilliant breakdown of exactly who's going in. And again, I always laugh whenever Constantine's on a team because, it's Constantine. What's he going to do in the story? Because I know there's going to be some little quirk, some little twist that's going to happen because of Constantine, because that's the way Constantine is. So when they're looking at this team layout, I was like, man, that is a neat-looking team. I'm looking forward to this issue.
I loved the idea that they left a team of 4 back behind in case something else came out.
Yeah.
Just knowing that
they left behind. They left Dr. Fate behind.
Well, you had to.
I love that. I love the fact that they left one of they're probably the most powerful magic user they have out back behind in case something came through.
Right. Yeah, because you couldn't have left just the 3 of them without some form of magic user there.
Right.
It was really a smart move. The use of Raven in this was fantastic.
Yeah.
Because of the fact that Raven constantly fights the darkness within her because of Trigon. That's her life. That's what she does. And this story really embraced that. So when Swamp Thing and John are faced with it corrupting them, she's, the one to basically bring him to the attention and go, like, listen, guys, this isn't you. You're being corrupted. And she helps bring them back. And I really loved that aspect of her. We get Raven from time to time that kind of falls into the background, and we forget her strength. One of the things I always enjoyed about the Titans run with her was her continued growth. Because of what she was fighting, we get to see this really, really strong woman who has been able to overcome so much and continues to overcome so much. The responsibility of what Raven carries within her is huge. I really, really loved that this embraced that piece, and you got to really see a nice spotlight on who Raven is in the story. What you didn't need to do a narrative, like an origin panel or anything like that. The story develops that for you. That's my preference.
One of the things I really digged about this, and I never knew this about her name. Mm-hmm. Because they do that whole bit about, Raven's mother named her Rachel after the one in the Torah who stole her father's idol when he tricked her out of her legacy. and it was just all about the same, how she's doing that to Trigon and all that. And I love the line where she never knew whether her name was meant to be instruction or a sick joke. Yeah. And she was always too afraid to ask. I love that little bit about her, because I'll be honest with you, I never remember ever reading that. Whether that was actually the case or whether it's always been that way, the reason Rachel was selected, or if it was just because, if there was, I don't know if this was always the intention, but I absolutely love this, explanation as to why her name is Rachel. That was absolutely brilliant.
There was a mystery to her in the beginning when she came out. So, I mean, as a character, so it was a character that eventually has continued to evolve over a long time. I don't remember that being in the early days of Raven. I think her story has continued to evolve as creators have had a chance to explore this character and continue to flesh her out. Yeah. She's a great creation. I mean,
God, yeah,
one of the better DC creations in a while.
And you get the right creator behind her. Like this right here is just absolutely brilliant Raven story. I loved her. Again, all of these characters, the usage of them in this story was absolutely brilliant. But she really does. Again, they brought her in for a reason. She lives in this world. She deals with the darkness. And I love the fact that how she's the one who's kind of able to fight the influence, who's able to do the manipulation, who's able to do some stuff in there. Again, it not only fits her power set, it fits what she's been, but also fits her personal background that she's had to deal with this. Again, more of the great hero gut check moments in a different sort of light.
John's reaction to the disorientation of where they're at and his inability to fly and obviously the corruption that's slowly happening to him that isn't really apparent at first but starts to grow. I really liked how that all played out, because I could see that being, you're in a place that's magic, which is already an Achilles heel. Yet now you can't use most of your powers to their fullest because of the nature of the space. For Superman, that's a very different thing, and you're seeing a frustration out of John that you probably wouldn't see out of his father because of how seasoned he is. But it's not a knock on John. It's more of I like the distinction.
Yes.
Because what I don't want to see is smaller Superman. I mean, I'm fine with him being Superman, and I like the title of him being Superman, but there should be a distinction, like, just because of who he is. When you see John, there's going to be some differences that are natural and validating to even having the character around. And boy, did this story embrace that.
He's got to look at life and deal with the problems differently than his father.
Yep.
There's going to be the influence that he has from his father, but also the weaknesses. Like in this, the darkness is corrupting him about how you're not as good as your dad. If your dad was here, he'd be doing it better. You failed your father. You failed your friends. And just all those kind of stuff that, it's the personal connection to get into John. Versus where the corruption he would use with Clark would have been different. And I love seeing that, the fact that how, again, John is being manipulated by the darkness, and it's getting to him different ways. So it's going to have, a different outcome, and it's going to have him lashing out differently than his father would. So again, this was, again, one of those things where absolutely brilliant on this, and especially even like with with Swamp Thing getting corrupted, how he was getting affected, how he had to deal with this, and how he was losing his connection to the Green. These are two younger, newer superheroes thrown in this epic event going on, and I love seeing that.
I liked how John Constantine was separated from everybody, and led to that whole conversation with him in the darkness. That seemed like the way that all needed to play out, right? Like, It was this creepy kind of conversation. It reminded me almost of like the Cenobites from Clive Barker's like Hellraiser, if you watched those movies at all. It's like there was a real creep factor to the Great Darkness that I thought was pretty important there. And a familiarity between the two. They know each other. It's one of the areas where I'm like, do I think the Great Darkness is telling the truth? Yes. As far as how the Great Darkness interprets the truth, or what it considers the truth, it's an interest. The magic is always a little smarmy like that, and that part's interesting.
first thing that popped in my head was "Hello, darkness, my old friend."
Yeah, yeah.
First thing that popped in my head with Constantine, and again, I loved how he gets pulled aside, and what's Constantine do? Does he panic? Does he think? No, he's like, "Oh, okay, yeah, this is just the same old for me, getting crammed into some darkness, no big deal." And I loved how the darkness, so you're insolent. Yes, it's a character flaw, so I've been told. Complete arrogance, complete just pure Constantine in this moment. And again, how much of it is Constantine putting up a fake shell? How much of it is it truly his personality? I can't really tell with this guy. And I think that's one of the things I've learned to really enjoy about who Constantine is. He is the hero, which I always do air quotes around the word hero, because sometimes magic has a price. And sometimes things got to get a little bit darkness. So that's why Constantine was the perfect person to actually have this conversation with the darkness going on. What's actually going on? And I love the fact that they first used Upside Down Man, then went to Trigon, then went to the Devil to represent all the darkness.
Yeah.
Where it wasn't just, this unknown shape. It was people that he could, again, that Constantine could connect to, that we, the reader, could connect to as being part of the darkness, but they're not saying it's the Upside Down Man, or not saying it's Trigon, or it's not saying it's the Devil. It's saying that this darkness is this entity that was around before the spark of life. The darkness has always been there. And I love that idea. And as we said, when we were talking about Infinite Earths, they really do lay out that, who corrupted who. The darkness didn't corrupt Pariah. Pariah corrupted the darkness. And they're really doing a great job laying out. But again, as this conversation is talking about how old the darkness is, how powerful is it truly, could Pariah truly corrupt it, is where the thoughts started getting in my head. Because the darkness here is playing off that they are kind of a victim in all this. And again, 100% could be Pariah corrupting the darkness, and that's how the story goes. But just that fact that the darkness has been around so long, that's what leads me to think, could we have somebody we don't know yet involved in this?
Well, I think it goes back to the question is it a person or is it some form of machine, or what is it that allowed...
Some type of entity, some type of...
Well, I guess what I'm saying, though, is you automatically leap to entities. How do we know it's an entity? I don't know. Something has allowed Pariah to do that. Is it the Anti-Monitor? Are we going to start seeing characters like that appear? I don't know. I don't know what this is going to look like. It's interesting. I don't know if it's going to be a character or not. We've got 2 issues, and a lot's got to happen. As I'm looking at this story with Jenny Lin, I loved her opportunity to step up, because she's a character who I grew to love in her. She was in Kyle Rayner's Green Lantern book for a while. They had a relationship, and we got to see that character grow there. We got to see her on the Justice League for a while, and I really quite enjoyed her there. She is a great character. I'm glad in this one she's like, wait a minute. These two are both going about it wrong. They're leaving out a piece of the puzzle. She recognizes that she needs to be a part of this, that she is a balance. And I've always liked that relationship between Todd and Jenny Lin. And seeing how they interrelate with their father in this, I thought was just a great way for this to go. I really loved that development.
Oh, big time. Big time. Again, as I said, beginning of our conversation here, I love this is a hero step-up moment. And I love reading those, but I love how they handled it differently in this one. This was that emotional, that familial connection. She's the only one who could have done that. Nightwing is cool, and he can give pep talks, but it's not that same type of connection, that same type of strength that the 3 of them have together. And I love seeing that. That was something that I really was like, man, that is cool. And it gets you wanting to, again, it gets me wanting to read more stuff. It gets me excited for the JSA book. It gets me excited to see how the JSA are going to handle, the multiverse side of things in the next issue. It gets me excited to read, go back and read prior stuff, and seeing I've gone back and read some of the prior stuff with her, some prior stuff with her and her brother, and some of the prior JSA stuff, because sometimes when we've had these really cool stories, it makes me go, hey, I want to read that. Where else can I read more of her stuff? And I like how this type of book gives me that same type of vibe, gives me that same type of, I want to read more of her. This book really, had me go back and reread the Swamp Thing stuff, and just to see our new Swamp Thing again, reread and get a better comfortability with who he is and how he's different than Alec. So it's kind of like I like that. That's one of the things about this book, about the Dark Crisis series that has been doing for me. It's not only getting me excited for the next issue, it's getting me excited for these characters, reading more about them, learning who they are. It's
interesting how I do feel the Great Darkness is being genuine in that it needs John Constantine. This corruption, if it's genuine, if it's being genuine, is ruining the natural order of things. That's why the Great Darkness is giving the information that it's giving to John. It does make sense.
Right.
And I liked how that played out. I also would love to read a book, The Further Adventures of Super Swamp Thing.
Yes.
Because, man, did that look way cool.
Dude, that looked awesome. And again, I went back and reread the most recent Swamp Thing stuff going on, where he had if you remember, where he had the Green Lantern icon and all that stuff, and where he was kind of like powered up by Will.
Yep.
And that was some great stuff. But also in that series, they had something that happened when he was dealing with his brother. He was talking about the nature of the green and how the green will be around. The planet, we're saying we're destroying the planet with our technology and this and that, but the planet will survive until it's just pure ash. And even then, the green will still be around somewhere else. That's because, again, I read that after reading this story and listening to Trigon Darkness talk to John about the nature, the truth of the matter, about his eternal existence, all that stuff, where he's saying the darkness will exist after this event. Whether they win or lose, the darkness will always be there. And that's the thing that really got me thinking, because I'm thinking about the same thing that, now when I read about the green, with how the green nature of the green, and just like, it was kind of a cool, and I don't know if they intended on having that same kind of analogy with the light and the dark always will exist. It may not exist in the format that we're used to. It may not exist in the location we're used to, but it will always be out there. And that's where this was the kind of stuff that got me thinking, is there somebody else involved in this? Now, again, this is really just me in my back of my head conspiracy tinfoil hat wearing coming out, but I don't know. And again, if not, I love this story that's played out. I love the fact that, Pariah was able to corrupt this, this eternal entity, but the eternal entity will still survive. It's just we won't be on the planet to enjoy it. The darkness will still be there, but humans won't be.
The darkness isn't the corruption in us. We're the corruption in it.
Yeah.
And I think those lines from John are really important. And I loved even just the ending. There is a hall from which wars against magical forces are waged. It is a place not spoken of. Those who dwell there are accustomed to operating in the dark. They battle it. They bargain with it. They insist it doesn't take the same toll anymore. And yet, what is a hall if not walls and lights put up against the dark? And what are any of us but a flicker waiting to be snuffed? And it was just a great ending, as far as, adding this sense of how we're all small pieces to something much larger. It was a great issue, issue.
And I'll tell you, we didn't talk enough about it, but this artwork in this book is absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, especially with multiple teams.
Having these multiple artists work together, how they got it to flow and just groove to the way it did. I was like, man, this is just absolutely brilliant. I loved this look of this book. This right here, and again, we didn't talk about it enough, but it's got to be mentioned how the visual imagery of this story really played a heavy part in this, in the actual crafting of it. The words alone weren't enough. You needed to have this visual styling to it. You needed to have this, variations depending on where they were, what they were dealing with. Yes, it was a little tweaks in the art style. Yes, it was a little bit different here than it was over here, and they needed that. I think that, for me, was a cool moment, because especially you got their Constantine moments, had a different art style. You had the in the hall, different look. You had inside the ring, had different look to it. And they really did a great job blending everything where nothing was jarring, but it fit on the story being told.
Come on, Skreel. Let's pay these Plutonian beam makers a visit.
I would like to remind everyone about our show voicemail line. It's 1-440-388-4434 or Dr. Norge on Skype. We love having you part of our show. RagingBullets@gmail.com is our email address. RagingBullets.com is our show website where you'll find releases just as they come out. It also feeds into Twitter. It feeds into our Facebook fan page. We are proud to be part of an amazing Facebook group community that are really our team behind the scenes that help craft our Speeding Bullets segment with the latest news that they're interested in talking about. And I really appreciate everyone on the Facebook group who helps us with that particular segment. And, of course, you can find more information about us in the About Us section of the show website, where you can connect to us on gaming platforms and social media, because we love connecting with you. We are sponsored, as always, by DCB Service and InStockTrades.com. Jim, what's going on over at DCBService.com?
We have the Dark Crisis Big Bang one-shot, 40% off, only $239. Tales from Earth 6A, Celebration of Stan Lee one-shot, 40% off, only $5.99. And we have the Danger Street, issue number 1 of 12, 40% off, only $239. Thank you, DCBS.
Over at InStockTrades.com, we have Absolute Doomsday Clock hardcover, $125 regularly, 50% off, only $62.50. Batman The Long Halloween, Haunted Night, Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale. That's $49.99 regularly, 50% off, only $24.99. And, of course, Constantine Distorted Illusions trade paperback, $16.99 regularly, 50% off, only $8.49. I want to thank DCB Service and InStockTrades.com for continuing to support our show. Our next episode, Jim and I are going to be back, and we're going to be talking about The Joker, the Man Who Stopped Laughing, and Gotham City Year One. We will see you next week.
Bye.
All right, you guys. Are you ready to sing your song?
I'd say we are. Yeah, let's sing it now.
Okay, this should be fun. Now get ready for your cue. Okay, Sean?
Okay.
Okay, Jim? Jim? Jim!
Okay. Raging Bullets time is here. We talk about what we hold dear. Comic books and TV shows, superheroes and their clothes, Justice League and so much more. I just love Green Lantern Corps. We talk about the books we've read with spoilers straight ahead.
Okay, fellas, get ready. That was very good, Sean.
Naturally.
Jim, you're a little flat there, so be careful. Jim? Jim? Jim!
Okay. Justice League and so much more. I still love Green Lantern Corps. DC Comics are what we know. The Raging Bullet Show. DC Comics are what we know. The Raging Bullet Show.
Excellent job, guys.
Let's sing it again. Yeah, let's sing it again.
No, that's enough. Let's not push it.
Push it. What is that? Yeah, what are you talking about?
No, I didn't mean anything by that.
I think
Sean,
we're going to do it
Jim,
I don't know.
how long do you want the song to go?
Look, it's our production.